Jennifer had been at the Australian Sports Carnival for 11 minutes when she turned to me and asked the question I knew was coming. She said, "Where are the supervisors?" I pointed at the kids, then at the parents under the marquees, then at the canteen mums handing out icy poles for $1. I said they all are. She didn't say anything for about 10 seconds. Then she pulled out her phone and started texting her husband back in Ohio. That was item number 10 on a list that got worse for her as the morning went on. Jennifer's an American mom. 2 kids, both are a local primary now, 6 months in. Her husband works in mining. That's why they came. She grew up doing sports days in Cincinnati, where the parents sign waivers before the kids walk on the field, where there's a paramedic on retainer, and where, in her words, the principal has a binder for everything. So when I invited her to her first Australian school sports carnival, I knew she'd notice things. What I didn't expect was that by 11 a.m., she'd be sitting on the grass, holding a sausage sandwich, asking me how Australia hasn't been sued into bankruptcy yet. Today I'm walking you through 10 things American parents, not just Jennifer, the 4 other American moms I've taken to carnivals over the last 2 years, always notice first. And I'm going to use the actual moments, the actual reactions, and the numbers behind why our system runs this way. The Fair Work Ombudsman doesn't have a clause for this one, but the answer is buried in the way we built childhood here. Here's what I'll tell you up front. Number 10 is the barefoot thing. Number 9 is the canteen. Number 8 is what happens when a kid falls over. But the one that actually silenced her wasn't until number 2. You'll see why the comments couldn't stop arguing about it the last time I posted footage of a sports day. So stay with me. Let's count down. Item 10, the shoes, or specifically, the lack of them. Jennifer counted 47 barefoot kids in the first 100 meters of the 200-meter sprint heats. She kept asking me if there was a podiatrist on call. A bloke called at Merbugang put it in our comments last month. I drive to the shops barefoot. No judgment. It's normal here. That's not a quirk. That's a regulatory difference. In Australia, schools cannot legally mandate shoes for non-uniform activities on grass. In the U.S., OSHA-style liability rules and parent-signed waivers mean a barefoot kid on a school oval is a lawsuit in motion. Cost difference? About $4 billion a year in U.S. school liability insurance versus roughly $180 million across the entire Australian education sector. But that's nothing compared to what she noticed at the canteen. Item 9. The canteen, run by mums, charging less than cost. Jennifer orders sausage sandwich and a coffee. Total, $5.50. She handed over a 10 and got change back. The mum behind the counter, Sharon, year 4 parent rep, told her the canteen would clear about $1,400 today, all of which goes back to the school for new sporting equipment. In Cincinnati, Jennifer told me, the equivalent school fundraiser is a catered food truck partnership where the school gets 12% of gross. The PNC model, Parents and Citizens, has been law in Australian state schools since the Public Instruction Act of 1880. 146 years of parents legally being allowed to run the canteen, the working bee, and the fundraising committee. And we're getting closer to number 2. But first, what happens when a kid actually falls over? Item 8, the fall. Jennifer counted 6 falls in the first hour. 6. Not a single parent ran onto the oval. Not one teacher pulled out an incident report. The kids got up, dusted off, and kept going. In the U.S., every fall is a documented incident. Name, time, witnesses, parental contact, follow-up. A school in Texas was sued in 2023 for $2.4 million because a year 4 student grazed an elbow on a long jump pit and the report wasn't filed within 24 hours. In Australia, the teacher on duty has a first aid kit, a year 6 student leader, and the assumption that kids fall over. That's the entire system, Jennifer said, and I quote, "I keep waiting for someone to scream." Nobody did. Item 7, the shared sunscreen. This one made her physically wince. 1 bottle, 40 kids, no teacher dispensing, no allergy form, no sign-off. Cancer Council Australia's SunSmart program, funded since 1988, operating in 96% of Australian primary schools, costs $0 to participating schools. The bottle is donated. The norm is shared. Skin cancer rates among Australians under 40 have dropped 38% since the program started. In America, that bottle would have a custodian, a sign-out sheet, and a parent-signed indemnity. Per child, per application. We're at number 6. Item 6, the timing of a day. Australian school sport carnivals run from roughly 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. That's it. No floodlights, no evening finals, no parent versus staff exhibition match. Now at Joyce Barron 672 left a comment on our last school video that I want to read out because she nailed why this works. My grandkids walked to school for the carnival. Came home with a ribbon. We had a sausage at the canteen and we're home by 3. That's how it's been since I was a kid in '63. Why complicate it? That's not nostalgia. That's the structural answer. Australian sports carnivals are built around the assumption that a 7-year-old can walk home unsupervised at 3 p.m. The system requires that assumption to function. The moment you remove it, like the U.S. has, the entire day grows a billing department. Item 5, the house system, and 11-year-old kids running the day. Jennifer watched a 12-year-old house captain, kid named Riley, direct 40 younger students into starting positions for the 100M. No teacher, no adult intervention, just Riley. The Australian house system, split into 4 color-coded teams across the entire student body, comes from the British boarding school tradition, imported in 1872. Every kid is in a house from prep to year 6. House points are tracked all year. The carnival is the climax. In the U.S., School Spirit is a single varsity team competing externally. In Australia, it's an internal tribe system where 11-year-olds carry administrative responsibility. Jennifer said, "This would never fly in Ohio." Liability, we're getting closer to number 2. Item 4, the parents in camp chairs, not on the field. Now some of you in the comments, and you're right, pointed out last time that not every Australian school is like this. At Ann Smith 3452 wrote, in 2026, we have nearly 30% of Aussies born overseas. Not every school carnival looks like a 1980s film. Fair. There are private schools with paid event coordinators. There are inner-city schools with paramedics on standby. There are catchments where the PNC is essentially dormant. But across the public system, which still serves 65% of Australian primary kids, the carnival format I'm describing is the rule, not the exception. Department of Education data from 2024 shows 91% of state primary schools still run unfenced, parent-managed sports days. That's the gap Jennifer was watching. Item 3, the ribbons. Every kid gets a ribbon. Not just first, second, third. Every kid. Participation ribbons in house colors, handed out by the principal at the marquee at 2 p.m. Jennifer's American instinct was that this was everyone gets a trophy culture, the thing American conservatives have been complaining about for 20 years. But the Australian version is different. The first, second, third place ribbons are real. The kids know who won. The participation ribbon is just confirmation that you showed up. Cost to the school, $136 for 340 ribbons. 40 cents per child. In the U.S. equivalent, the average school spends $4,200 on engraved plastic trophies for the top 3 across each event. And we're one away from a moment that silenced her completely. Item 2, and this is the one I promised you. It was about 11:15 a.m. A year 1 kid, couldn't have been more than 6, wandered off from his marshalling group toward the fence line. He was barefoot, holding half an icy pole, completely unsupervised. Jennifer saw him and started moving toward him. I put my hand on her arm and said, "Watch." Within about 8 seconds, 3 different parents, none of them his, clocked him. One waved at a teacher 30 meters away. Another physically walked over and steered him back to his house group. The third just made eye contact with the kid until he turned around himself. No jilling, no emergency, no incident report. Jennifer said they all just watched him. I told her yes. That's the entire model. Every parent at an Australian carnival is, by a social contract, watching every kid, not just their own. It's why we don't need 14 teachers on duty. It's why the ratios that would be illegal in California are normal here. She didn't say anything for the rest of the race. That unspoken supervision web, what sociologists call diffused community surveillance, is what's been quietly disappearing in the US since the 1990s. There are studies. There's a 2019 Pew Research paper that tracks the collapse. American parents stopped watching other people's kids around 1994, right when the stranger danger panic peaked. They never started again. We did. That's number two. So what was number one? Number one wasn't a moment. It was the realization Jennifer had at the very end of the day, walking back to the car park with her two kids, both barefoot, both sunburned on the shoulders despite the shared sunscreen, both clutching participation ribbons. She turned to me and said something I didn't expect. Item one, she said, "My kids haven't asked to check their phones once today." That was it. That was the line. 6 hours. Two American kids, raised on U.S. screen time norms. Not one phone check. Now here's where it gets bigger than a sports carnival. The Australian Bureau of Statistics tracks something called unstructured outdoor time for children under 12. In 1985, the average Australian primary student spent 4 hours 20 minutes per day in unstructured outdoor play. In 2024, that number is 2 hours 10 minutes. Halved. In the United States, the same figure went from 3 hours in 1985 to 37 minutes in 2024. We dropped 50%. They dropped 80%. And what Jennifer was watching, what made her kids forget their phones, wasn't just the carnival. It was the residual structure of a childhood Americans have lost. The unfenced oval, the shared sunscreen, the other parents watching, the 11-year-old house captain, the $5.50 sausage sandwich, the 3 p.m. finish. It's not perfect. It's not universal. At Ann Smith 3452 was right. Not every school has this anymore. But it exists. And the default in Australia is still closer to what Jennifer's parents would recognize from Ohio in 1972 than to what her own kids experience in Cincinnati in 2026. Australia kept the childhood. America sold theirs to the insurance companies and the iPad makers. Jennifer didn't say that, but she was thinking it. I could tell because she was already asking when the swimming carnival was. Now, most of you in the comments have been telling me about the swimming carnival and the Anzac Dawn services and the bowls clubs. At Gregor Turner 4753 wrote a comment about Talisman Sabre last week that's been sitting in my head, about the trust between Australia and Japan and the moment that trust got earned in 1942 on the Kokoda track. That's the video I'm making next. It's about an American veteran I took to an Australian Anzac Dawn service last April. I won't tell you what he said when the buglers started playing the last post, but I will tell you it's not what I expected. If you got a sports carnival story, your kids, your grandkids, your own carnival from 63, drop it below. I read every one. I'm Yemoe. This is the Aussie verse.